Okay, welcome everybody. We're just opening this webinar and letting everybody join us. So we'll just give it a couple of minutes to let all of our participants join. My name is Rebecca. I'm a member of the international marketing team and I'll be your moderator today. I can see we've got people joining us, which is great. Welcome for those who are just coming in. I will just leave some information here on the chat for anybody who wants it regarding our applicant weeks, which are currently going on. This session is part of the applicant weeks. So I'll just leave that there for anybody who wants to have a look at other sessions that we're running in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, some of you coming in now may have even attended the session this morning where we talked to some other members of the engineering and technology subject area. Okay. So yes, hello everyone who's just joining us now. My name is Rebecca and I'm working in the international marketing team. And I think I can introduce this event. So welcome. The webinar today will be a Q&A with our lovely program staff here who have joined us, representing various programs in the area of engineering and technology. We're hoping to get some questions in from all of you watching today. So please do use the Q&A function to ask your questions about the programs, the subject area, eligibility, study experience, or anything that you want to ask about. We will be checking in there and I'll be answering any questions that are more general. And then I'll be directing your questions to our staff members that are here today. So if you see a question that you're interested in, then please do upvote it so that we can answer that. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to ask everybody here today, all of our staff members, to introduce themselves. And I would like to ask you to introduce who you are, what kind of area you work with, and the programs or department that you're representing. And I will start with Yuri, and then I'll ask Katrin and Linus and Matthias. So we'll start with you, Yuri.
Thank you, Rebecca. I hope you can all hear me. So my name is Yuri Kantas, and I'm the program director of our master program called Energy Efficient and Environmental Building Design. I'm an associate professor at the Division of Energy and Building Design. I don't know if you want to know more, Rebecca.
That's a great intro. We'll get into it more as we go through it. It's no problem. Katrin?
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Katrin and I'm part of the working group for the master program Pharmaceutical Technology. I'm a senior lecturer at the Department of Immunotechnology, so I'm doing teaching and research, and I'm also the undergraduate study director there.
Great, and Linus?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Linus John. I am the program director of our master's program, Water Resources Engineering. I'm an associate professor and a senior lecturer from the Department of Water Resources Engineering as well. So as you can see from the name, Water Resources Engineering is an engineering topic that is dealing with water, physical, chemical, biological aspects of the water. So nice to meet you all.
Great, thank you. And then finally, Matthias.
Thank you. So my name is Matthias Wallegård, and I am the program director for the master's program in virtual reality and augmented reality. And also I'm an associate professor and at the Department of Design Sciences here at Lund University, where I'm the head of the extended reality research group.
Great, wonderful. It's so great to have you all here today. And I hope that we can basically just get into some questions, common questions that our prospective students often have around your programs, and just get a sense for what the programs are like and what the study environment is like as well. So, oh, I can see we already have a question in the Q&A, which is great. And this one is directed towards the virtual reality and augmented reality program. So it's a question about having studied, I think, for this program, systems and transformers, not sure which. How much in-depth knowledge do you need in that area, and how will the subject be used in the master? So Matthias, I can ask you if you can say anything about this.
It's difficult to say with exact detail how much you should have, but you should be familiar with things like frequency domain transformations, like Laplace transform, Fourier transform, and so on. So you should have at least one course where you study these things in depth, because to answer your second question, you will need this, for example, when you study image analysis. It's absolutely fundamental for these kinds of courses, also computer vision. So that's why we have it as a prerequisite for applicants. I hope this answers the question.
Great, thank you. And what I'll also do as well, because I imagine we will have some questions around eligibility and things like this. So I'll share in the chat the program pages for engineering and technology, which obviously include all of your programs. And then if anybody's watching who wants to find out more about a particular program and have a look at the requirements in terms of previous knowledge and previous study, then I think that's a great place to start. And then of course you can ask us further questions about this. So I'll just leave those here in the chat. Hopefully all of you participating can see this. And then I'm also going to check, okay, we have another question about virtual reality already. And in fact, I think what we're going to do as well, once I've asked this question, we can also talk a little about some of these similar questions to everybody, because the question here says, how much of the program is a balance of programming, practical and theoretical parts? Is it more programming and practical oriented or more on theory? And I think that's a nice question to ask everybody, but we'll start with you, Matthias, again.
That's an excellent question, actually. Our goal when we set up the master's program was to create a program where you have a mix of things. So it's you should do a little bit of everything. It should be, we describe it as a holistic program, which sounds kind of fluffy, I'm aware, but the idea is that you leave this master's program with a deep understanding not only of the mathematics and the programming, but you should also be able to analyze, is it really a good idea to actually build this virtual reality system? So we have, for example, one course where you have even ethics. We have ethical discussions around technology. So that belongs to the more theoretical part of the course. And other theoretical parts concerns how do humans actually process the world and virtual worlds, because you need really to understand that in able to program effective virtual reality and augmented reality applications. So, I mean, to answer a bit short way, yes, we try to achieve a balance between programming, practical things, theoretical lessons, and so on.
Great, thank you. And then I think that's a great question to ask the others, as I said. So maybe Yuri, would you like to talk a little bit about the balance between theory and applied content?
Sure. So we normally have, I would say, kind of a course chain. So we have the first like one study period, and we have two parallel theoretical courses, and then we apply these kind of this theoretical knowledge into more of a design course in the second part of our in the second study period. And this is kind of we repeat this kind of a couple of times. So that is more or less the balance between theoretical courses and then apply them in the design course.
Great, and then I'll go to Katrin.
Yes, for us, it's also that we try to, I would say it's also a mixture. And again, we have, these different courses where it may vary a bit how much you are, for example, in the lab and how much you will have lectures and exercises and so on. But we also have 2 back-to-back project courses where you will be quite a lot out in groups and hands-on, both in the lab, but also discussing and, for example, including ethical questions. So because the program really tries to cover the whole process of pharmaceutical development to production. So it's, again, kind of a holistic approach, trying to really give you an overview, but also allow you to go in depth in some of the parts that you are interested in. So yeah, I hope that helps.
I'm sure that's really helpful. And Linus?
Yes, I think the description, excellent description by Matthias, applies to us as well in water resources engineering. If we try to, for instance, compare the virtual reality to, let's say, mathematical or numerical modeling of the water regime. So in that way, I think it's also very much comparable. And additionally, we are also not limited to technical issues. In our program, we also take up the aspects of socioeconomic aspects, user conflicts, this kind of questions as well. So it's really an integrated and a holistic study program.
That sounds like a theme across many of your programs then, which is really interesting. Oh, just to mention for those who are attending, we now have also been joined by one of my colleagues, Audrey, who's in the background of the webinar today, and she will post some links and answer some questions as well. So in case you're wondering, in case you see her posting in the chat. Great. Okay, we now also have some questions coming here as well. And actually, this is for you, Linus. It's about water resources engineering. But again, it can be something that I think will benefit us if we talk about across the programs also. But we'll start with you. It says, how does the course structure look like in terms of minors or internships? So I think minors meaning maybe electives and, you know, how much freedom you may have on the program to choose your own direction. And then internship, of course, meaning a work placement or a link with industry. So that's two areas really around electives and also potentially work placements, or I guess some of you may have more research placements, for example. Could you speak a little about how that looks for your program?
Yes, we have that possibility as well in our program. Internship or this kind of even project course are often based on individual initiatives. So after a detailed discussion between the students and the program leadership, this can be set up, a detailed plan can be set up, and then the student will get help in doing any kind of internship or carry out the project course in close connection to an industry or to a specific research area or research topic. So that is incorporated in our program, yes. Is
that usually in the second year of study that they would do that, or?
No, it is in parallel. It is, of course, not scheduled. Not right. Scheduled in our semester, but this is a kind of a it is can be carried out in parallel. Yeah,
I see. Okay. And do students have a lot of choice over elective courses in your program?
Yes, we have roughly half, let's say 45 credits compulsory and 45 credit selective. So that means half. And that in addition to the thesis work.
Okay, cool. That's great to know. Matthias, what does it look like for virtual reality and augmented reality?
In terms of?
Sorry, in terms of both electives and also whether there's any opportunity for an internship.
Yes, so we have been working on trying to increase the number of elective courses It's actually ongoing right now. So what we're trying to create is, this is based on feedback from the students that are already in the program. And what we want to achieve is one track that is more towards design, and one track that is more towards implementing systems, more technical track, so to speak, where you could, for example, take courses that concerns machine learning and how you can use machine learning algorithms for making more effective VR and AR systems. And so, yeah, that's kind of ongoing work right now. And with regards to internship, I'd say there are really good opportunities there as well. I just come now from 1 hour ago, a meeting with Ericsson, which is a big Swedish company that are traditionally working with telecom systems, but now more and more look for applications for VR and AR using 5G telecommunication technology. And they actually specified that they have a lot of places for summer internships. They really are looking for motivated students in this field. So I'd say it looks very bright also there.
Brilliant, that's great. Yuri, what's the situation for your students? Do they have a lot of freedom over the courses that they can pick as well?
I'm afraid they don't really. I think we are the only master program that has like only compulsory courses.
Okay,
and,
that's good to know.
So there are no elective courses, and it is made this way that they kind of we add on the complexity of the program. So all the kind of subjects we add on them, so they kind of so there's a whole like course chain that needs to be followed. But we definitely have students that do the degree projects at companies. So in that sense, you can consider it to be like an internship. But they have something, they have a project, and they that they kind of do for the company, but also as a degree project.
Okay, great. And finally, Katrin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think for us it's a bit of a combination. We have both some mandatory, especially in the beginning. We want to give you all kind of a collective basic package that you carry along. And then we have also these 2 project courses that you need to take. But then there are a couple of, like 5 courses where they are elective mandatory parts and elective where you can choose a bit different combinations. And we always make sure that you get information meetings where we go through and try to really introduce you into pros and cons, what will it look like, and what it is that now the respective student is interested in, because you could also choose a little bit different focus areas. We don't have scheduled internships. The same for us. I mean, we have contact with many companies. We also have guest lecturers that you meet that come from the industry, where you can, for example, make contact. So people go out and do their degree work. It could be companies, but could be also within universities. So it varies a bit what the students are interested in and what they find interesting to deep dive into. But I also know from students that have found internships, for example, during summer, where they want to explore or work at the company, for example. Did I forget now any?
I think that was a great answer. Thank you. So we also have a question here, and this is about the program specific documents, and it's aimed towards Matthias. It's around the summary sheet, and someone's basically saying that they have finished their bachelor's and they're starting a master's, but they haven't finished it yet. So should they include information on the summary sheet about the things that they're currently studying, even though they haven't taken their final exams for that? That's a very specific question. I understand if you may not be able to give a clear answer to that, but perhaps there's something general you could still say about what you're looking for in the summary sheet and why that's useful for the program that may still help this student.
Yeah, I mean, in general, it makes our work much easier if there is a clear summary sheet, because then we don't risk to miss something. If we take the systems and transforms as an example, that kind of knowledge can be distributed in all sorts of courses regarding control theory, statistics, and so on. So if we can get it clearly presented in the summary sheet, that's really worth a lot, so we don't miss it. But the question if the person should mention it even though the course is not finished, spontaneously, I wouldn't add anything that you're not done with yet. That's my spontaneous answer.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I mean, we can also take that further outside of the session. If that specific student would like to contact us, we can have a look and see what the situation is, because I don't know also whether, yeah, it's possible from a general perspective. So great, thank you anyway. But yeah, so I guess I think it's an important reminder in general for everybody to check on the program pages for the program specific documents, because of course every program will have slightly different guidance and slightly different requirements, and there's a box like some way down the page called how to apply, and in that area you can see if your program requires any specific documents such as a summary sheet, which is probably the most common in this subject area, and then if so, then there's usually instructions there which you'll want to read carefully to make sure that you upload the correct document or the correct template, for example. And also like I know that some of your programs specifically say that no additional documents such as a CV are required, so you can check there whether or not a document is required or not. So that would be my general advice to everybody watching, to check the program pages for that section. And it is an area which I know some students forget or don't realize, so it's a good reminder for everybody. Maybe on a similar topic, actually, I can ask the group if there's any common errors or issues that you see with people's applications that they could easily fix, or if there's anything that you're really looking for when you're looking at an application. So maybe I can go around starting with Yuri and then Katrin and Linus. Matthias, I think you already kind of answered this, but feel free to jump in if you want to add something else that you're looking for. Yeah, so Yuri, is there something that you're looking for with applicants that you really want to see in that application?
First of all, I have to say I'm only program director since June, so I have not been looking at applications last year. So I don't have all the details, but I can just start from the requirements that are stated also on the Lund University website. I mean, if you have these if you comply with those requirements, then you should be able to then you meet the requirements, and then you can come further. We do not, as far as I know, do not have this summary sheet, for instance. So yeah, look at the website. That's the only kind of thing that I can say to kind of see what these specific requirements are.
Yeah, so just really carefully check that you're eligible, and it's based mainly on those academic requirements and previous learning. Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, what kind of courses you had done and so on. Right.
And Katrin, what's the situation for pharmaceutical technology? Oh, I just realized your nameplate, actually, we misspelled pharmaceutical. I apologize. But that is supposed to say pharmaceutical technology on your, yeah, apologies.
People understood, I'm sure. So for us, it's also so that the summary sheets are really great help to judge the applications and to find information that we need to find. We also appreciate a lot if people attach course syllabi, so that we again can judge that you really fulfill the requirements that you should fulfill, so that we can judge from the content, because as I think Matthias also said before, that sometimes they are hidden in different courses, and then it's very hard to find if you are not pointed into the right direction. And then what also sometimes happens is that people don't calculate into ECTS in the correct way. So that the credit system, that also helps us a lot if you make sure. I'm sure maybe Rebecca, you can also fill in on that there's help to get. So there are tables and information you can use.
Exactly. Yes, you can Google it, or we can also share a link that has been like written from the engineering department, I believe, where you can see the calculation that you need. I'll share that.
If we have that, that also is otherwise something that is sometimes is missing, and yeah, makes it harder to judge.
And then Linus?
Yes, in our program, as I think most of the program has the same, you should have a summary sheet, but in our program, we have a special entry requirement as well, which is about 3 fundamental courses. So the applicant should provide proof that they have taken these 3 fundamental courses in their bachelor's education. So this has clearly indicated in our application document as well. So these 3 fundamental courses are advanced mathematics, hydraulics, and geology, just to name them. So please check this special entry requirement that we are asking for.
Perfect, thank you. And so it sounds to me like for all of you, the key thing is looking at this eligibility regarding previous study. It's a very important concern. Great, yes. Thank you. We have another question here, unless you want to add anything, Matthias. I think you're already...
Just very, very briefly, I agree with everything that has been said. And the mindset you should have, I think, is try to make the reviewers' job easy. If you think like that, you will produce a good application, I think.
Great tip, thank you. So here's a question regarding the energy efficient and environmental building design program. And the question is, would you be able to suggest what kind of journals or projects, I guess, research areas that I can read about to get more knowledge about what this program is concerned about? I hope I've accurately interpreted your question there. Yeah, Yuri, I don't know if you have any suggestions for the prospective students about something they can start looking into and researching, however specific you can you can go.
Sure. I would say that, like in general, the master program tackles some of the issues that are energy use, daylight, ventilation, solar energy, and that we get something, basic and life cycle analysis. So basically those kind of main topics. So any of the scientific journals that are dealing with these topics are, of course, it's a good start, and maybe it's quite an advanced start to actually start at a scientific journal. But it would be nice if you can start digging there. So those are, I would say, the main topics.
That's great, thank you. And in fact, I am curious for all of your programs, what are the sort of hot topics or the key research areas that are specialisms for you? Obviously, I know you'll work in your own individual fields, but perhaps we can go around and you can just, for anyone who's watching who wants to understand more, what kinds of things they can read about, what kinds of areas they could really go into if they take your program, so that they can kind of understand the niche that we're in. So Katrin, maybe you could say something about your program's areas of research.
Yeah, so I think it's a quite difficult question, actually. So the program is focused on pharmaceutical technology, and it comprises both the field of small molecules that are used to treat people and biologics, so molecules that comes from biology, so antibodies, for example, that you can use for therapeutics. And then we also address the whole line of methods that you can use to discover, methods to characterize different pharmaceuticals, also biopharmaceuticals, how you formulate them into a drug, a treatment that you can give to someone. And I mean also production. So it's really, it is a huge field, and it depends a little bit, I'm sure, on your background also, so many have an chemical engineering background, for example. And then, it depends a bit on both what you're most interested in and where you feel you have a strong background and where you maybe want to add. So if you're more into chemistry and small molecules, maybe it could be good if you read a bit more about biopharmaceuticals and get a bit of an idea about cells and antibodies and immune system. If you're more interested in the technology production, that is not my strong background. I can say I come from the immunology, biology field. It's a huge field. So,
Okay, but at least that's a really good thing for people to know, that they can go in many different directions within that field from this master's on. So that's great. Thank you. Linus, maybe you can say a few words about this as well.
Yes, I think it's very easy to realize that the whole world is facing challenges related to water in our daily life. You just, when you open up TV or newspaper or whatever, you will see the news reporting of flooding problem, droughts, water pollution, or the climate change, and all these things, they are connected to water. And another thing is that we are now, the whole world is also talking about, besides the climate change, we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, which are targeted by United Nations of this so-called Agenda 2030. And in this Agenda 2030, I think at least half of these Sustainable Development Goals are directly related to water issues. So it's really a hot topic and a lot of challenges in our daily life and in research, in industry, all over the world, developing country, developed country, and poor country or rich countries. So everywhere.
Yeah. Exactly. And we've recently, actually, we're very proud of this. Just a couple of weeks ago, we got the QS rankings through for sustainability, and Lund is now 12th in the world for sustainability. So you're at the forefront of this work, which is contributing to this. So it's absolutely wonderful. And Matthias, your program is relatively new, I believe. So I guess there is a lot of interest in this technology, and there's probably a lot of areas that you're working on that are also quite hot topics at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, one just surf around a bit and all sorts of strange words pop up, like the metaverse, what is that about? And so on and so forth. XR, all sorts of strange acronyms. But to give a very quick and brief overview here, you could think of, for example, focusing on computer graphics. I mean, that's like the bread and butter for virtual reality and augmented reality. In fact, some of my students right now, they're really passionate about studying in detail the graphics pipeline for VR and AR. You could also imagine looking more on how do you make these devices aware of their environment? Like, how do you build so-called tracking algorithms? That's a lot about image analysis and computer vision. I mean, a lot of mathematics basically, and combined with programming. Then you can also choose sort of like a more soft approach if you want, and look more on how do humans behave in these kind of artificial environments, and how do you build like 3D user interfaces is something we talk a lot about. We're moving now from 2D user interfaces with screens and tablets and phones, and into some sort of spatial computing paradigm, where we have sometimes even, I mean, the idea is that people will wear glasses in the future and interact with data and information around them. And that sounds all fine, but how should we actually design these devices and their user interfaces? So that's becoming a whole research field, in fact. So, the student asked about suggestions for journals. If you want a holistic view over the VR and AR field, I would suggest Frontiers in Virtual Reality, because that journal really covers everything from the nitty-gritty specifics of computer graphics to ethical implications of this technology.
Great, thank you. Very informative. Okay, so we're actually getting more questions here, which is great. One question is directed to Linus, and it's around the eligibility again. We will try not to go too detailed into eligibility because, of course, it can be very individual. But somebody has asked around, they have the courses that you mentioned, but they don't have a bachelor in the area of civil engineering or environmental engineering. Is this something that's extremely important in terms of their general background? And if so, you can maybe explain a little why. Yes.
Yes, our requirement is a civil engineering or environmental engineering or equivalent. So we are not limited to this bachelor's education. So as long as the applicant have taken these 3 fundamental courses with enough credits, then the person should be eligible.
That's really
That's
good
for
to
sure.
know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know we do get that a lot from questions from students, not just about your program, but in general about what does it mean with equivalent, and some programs are much more strict on this than others. So that's a really helpful piece of information. Thank you. Oh, I just wanted to note that me and Yuri were just saying that there is actually a summary sheet for the energy efficient building design, so you can check the page for the detail there. Yeah, no worries. Okay, so I would love to actually move on a little to the study experience and what people can expect when they're actually in your programs, what kind of day-to-day experience they will have. We have a couple of questions here, and they're actually they're also towards the virtual reality and augmented reality, but I think they're also applicable to everybody, around, are the group projects, is it more individual, do you have, for example, written based exams, or what kind of assessment do you do? There's a couple of questions here, so maybe we'll start with that. Start with what kind of day-to-day learning looks like. Is it lecture-based? Is it lab-based? Is it group work? That kind of thing. And also assessment, how work is assessed. So we can start with you, Matthias, and then we can take it around again.
Yeah, I'll try to be extremely concrete. So we'll start with an example. Our ground course in virtual reality, how that looks. So there we start with workshops where you sit down 2 and 2 and do, you do tutorials to learn the basic tools, which are Blender and Unity, they're called. 6 or 7 workshops. So it's kind of small groups working in a very interactive way, being led by the tutors in that sense. And then that course is continued with more in-depth lectures, and but also combined with elaborations where you get concrete experience of things that can then be discussed in a more theoretical way. And we have also a small written exam. You hand also in assignments that are after you've done the practical workshops, you get 2 assignments where you're supposed to solve a concrete task in 3D and hand in, and both that assignment and the written exam are graded then. And on the cherry on top then, where you kind of fuse all the things you've done, is a project where you get a concrete task that is suggested maybe from a local company or some other organization, And you solve that task then with the knowledge you have and the tools that you have at hand in the virtual reality lab. And you build what we call a demonstrator, which should be, it's not a finished product, but it's so finished that you can actually demo it for someone and get feedback on it. So yeah, that's kind of how we do it in that course. And I should say in many other of the courses in the program.
That's great, thank you. That sounds really fascinating as well, and how you kind of scaffold it up. So you start with this and then you build it up until the point where you're actually doing something that you can show them. So that's really cool. Okay, yes, let's go round with that question, and we'll do Yuri and then Katrin and then Linus. So again, something around, if you could share something around what the working day might look like for the students and what kind of assessments they might be doing.
Yeah, sure. So as I said before, so we have normally two parallel courses. They are theoretical courses, you could say, and they are not only lecture based, but quite focused on lectures, and then they normally is an assignment in those courses. But then they move into the next course, and that is a design project. It's or an applied course, and in this course you kind of work together with a group, and you have one assignment for the whole study period, and there is no exam on this one. This is your project, and it's graded based on a written report, but also on a presentation that you will do. And I would say for the theoretical courses, we have mainly written exams. There's one oral exam, and yeah, as I said, we have some individual assignments and we have some group assignments. So it's a mix of all these kind of elements there.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Katrin, is it similar for pharmaceutical sciences?
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel it, yeah, I recognize some parts there. So we also have some courses where you will have written exams. We have, if you have a course that contains a lab course part, then usually also the lab report is part of the examination, and that will be corrected and graded and needs to be passed in order to get the full credits for the course. For the project courses, it's again also similar that there is not a written examination, but you have a project, and it's basically your work throughout the whole, and these project courses go usually over 2 study periods. So it's half a year that you deal with a problem, or you need to find information, you need to do experiments, you need to produce a report, and you also need to present. So yeah. And yeah, of course, I mean, we all have this structure that we have 2 courses in parallel at all times, which is maybe different from many other places. So yeah, it will be probably busy, but probably you will also have, maybe labs in one, and you will have lectures or some exercise in another course. Yeah, and that's also varying how much you would work individually or in groups, for example, for the project courses, or if you do a lab course, often you work in pairs.
Okay, that makes sense. And Linus, is it a similar situation for you?
Yes, exactly. I can confirm that we have all these kind of aspects in our program. Then, of course, different courses have slightly different structure, but they can vary from this and that. But I can add something more, which I haven't heard from my colleagues. For instance, in our courses, it can be a kind of a debate session or a role play based debate, which we discuss some topic. Or we might have also computer exercises doing simulations or numerical modeling work of, say, river basin. This kind of thing, or we could have also field visit to go out and in the special field site to investigate something related to the topics. So it varies a lot, and not only the lectures and exercises, but in practical and theoretical ways.
Brilliant. It really sounds like all of the programs represented today have a real variety and are very engaging in that regard. So it's really cool. Okay, we have a question here about job opportunities after studying these programs. And I think we can say either job or perhaps research, if that's something that is relevant for your programs. So yeah, I mean, it's a big it's a big question, and I understand, Yuri, you just started as the program director, so I don't know if you are so familiar with what your graduates end up doing after, but if you want to say something, you can, and then we could perhaps after that go to Katrin, Linus, and Matthias.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been involved since in the master program since the very beginning.
Okay.
Just on the role as the program director. So I definitely know we have had the program now in 10 years. So it's actually, 10-year celebration this year. And I would say we have, throughout the years, I would say the building industry is seeing more and more stricter regulations when it comes to energy and what kind of materials you use and daylight requirements, etc. So we need more and more experts, and this is also what you see on the job market. So our alumni, they kind of end up very often in consultant companies or in architectural offices with more expertise on in between the architect and the engineer, and which is quite an interesting role, which we haven't seen before, I would say, not in Sweden at least. So I would say the job market seems to be there's only a growing demand for people from our program. That's what I see right now. So with that is very good news.
Yeah, brilliant. And Katrin, is there a mix of people going into industry and research from your program, or how does it look for you?
Yes, so our program is also fairly new. So
okay.
Yeah, so but I know there's one student who has started his PhD studies now at LTH. People go to the pharmaceutical industry, and there again, since we cover the whole chain, from discovery, development to production, they could also end up in different places, also quality management, for example. So a lot of different possibilities, depending a bit on interest and background. And yeah,
brilliant. Linus?
Yes, our program belongs to one of the oldest one. We are running this program, I think, nearly 19 years. Based on the feedbacks of our alumni, I can say that the successful rate for job hunting after the education is very high. I can tell you some story that, for instance, some of our alumni, they got top level job like a minister of some country, or some are becoming professors. So the working field is also the whole world, the whole globe. So not only in Sweden, not only in your home country, but in the whole world. And it can also be widespread, like in the research field, academics, getting PhD education, or in engineering firms, or some people started their own company, or people are working in international organizations. So very wide, all over the world. Brilliant.
And Matthias, we said that this is an area that is growing in different directions. So I guess you have so how new is the program again? Just remind me.
It's just 2 years.
Okay, so you only just have some graduates then.
Yeah, the second year students haven't finished yet, so we haven't seen any concrete examples of what will happen to them when they're ready. So I can just speculate.
Yeah.
I can say, however, that the job market for VR and AR engineers in the US, I've seen statistics there, and it's huge. I don't know about the situation in Sweden. There I just have like practical experience of collaborating with local companies. and they are definitely looking for people with these kinds of skills. Like I said before, I was at Ericsson's office just this morning, and they are seeing more and more fields where the need is kind of competence. And as for research, I think, to be honest, currently it's a little bit tougher to get the research position in this field in Sweden. I'd say it's easier in the US and Germany and France and bigger countries with different kind of research funding systems. This is something I struggle with on a daily basis, so I know it's like that.
Right.
But outside academia, I'd say it looks very, very bright.
Brilliant. And I guess that's just useful as well for people to know that there is always the option of perhaps going to other countries, like you've all said, that it's a worldwide kind of industry. So there is always that option as well. And I think it's fair to say that our university has a good name, not only in Sweden, but amongst the wider like community also. So that's great. Thank you. Okay, so we answered that one, which is wonderful. And I actually, like, I can't believe how fast the time is going here. We do have another question that's just come in, and this is around study abroad opportunities. So yeah, so regarding the virtual reality and augmented reality program, I don't know if this is something you will have already been able to establish. If so, but there's a question here about whether you have any Erasmus or internships in in international companies abroad. Is that something you offer?
Yeah, well, I had just as a concrete example, there were 2 students this summer that got Erasmus internship in their home country. So yes, I'd say that's very much possible. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I'll open it to the rest because I don't know which one of your programs may have these kinds of opportunities, but does anybody know that their program does have any collaborations where students go abroad, for example? Or is not something that is very common? If anyone wants to put up a hand, it's okay. Yeah, Katrin?
Yeah, so I can say for us, it's you can apply for exchange in the 3rd semester, but the possibilities are somewhat limited. So yeah, it also, I mean, you have still quite a strict program where you need to, you know, get your points. And I mean, now also, I mean, migration office has, I mean, the rules are, how should I say? I mean, not more relaxed than they used to be, at least. So of course, it's important to follow the courses and to fulfill your planned studies. And I mean, many come here from abroad, and then I also have the feeling that so far I don't know about many who then wanted to go away yet another time. But I mean, there are some possibilities, but maybe not super extensive.
Yeah, and I think it is a good point to mention that it depends partially on your residence situation. So for the person who asked this question, it's not something that we can necessarily guide on here in this session, but it's something that you'll be welcome to investigate with our migration team, and we can help you with that. But it's something where you have to make sure that you can do that under the conditions of your residence permit also, which is something we won't advise on here today. Okay, so yeah, we're starting to reach quite close to the end of the session already, which is it really went fast. So I would really actually like to just ask each of you whether you can share something that is special about your program. Like, why would a student want to study your program in particular versus the same or similar kinds of programs elsewhere? What is special about the Lund University experience of this program? Because I think that's something that people watching are probably thinking about right now. Like, which program do I prioritize? Where do I put my efforts. So I think it's nice to explain a little bit how we might be a bit special or something that they could do with your program. So we'll go around with the same order before: Yuri, Katrin, Linus, and Matthias, and just share anything you'd like to about why the students should choose your program. Okay, let's start with you, Yuri.
Oof, such a tough question. Or a kind of
It's a big
not I mean, I know it has I know the strengths of the program. It's just I'm just thinking on how to I would say what is unique about the program is the position that it is not necessarily architecture and it's not necessarily engineering. We are kind of in between those two subjects, which is quite unique. So you get like an in-depth theoretical knowledge on lots of interesting subjects, but not and then so it kind of makes you expert in this kind of gap that exists right now. So then you will be able to kind of fill this gap, which I think is very interesting for your career.
That's a great answer, thank you. Katrin, what would you say?
Yeah, so it is not super easy to put it in a short
in just
summary,
one,
but
yeah,
I believe that we have a very unique combination of expertise coming both from the small molecule pharmaceutical part, strong chemistry. We have, like, from among others, my department, strong focus on biopharmaceuticals. So you have the connection to both worlds, really experts in the field. We also have all spin-off companies and a network of industry partners. We cover also the formulation, where we also again have strong expertise, because also food technology, and from there formulations is included. So large scale production, discovery, so all parts are represented. Quality management, legislation, all will come up. So you get a very broad, but still, I mean, in certain parts, very deeply into the specific topics. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you. Linus?
Yes, as I mentioned, water problems, they are very international. And if you want to change the world, you should start with changing the water challenges. Our working environment is also very international. Our working language is English. Everybody is very eager to discuss all these international problems. So it's I think this if you want to change the world, you should start with water resources engineering, which is an easy way to change the world. Thank you.
Brilliant. And Matthias?
Yeah, I should say one unique thing is that we try to take advantage of the fact that Lund University is an extremely broad university with its 8 faculties. I just made a quick calculation here. In the course, there are teachers and researchers from 5 of these 8 faculties involved somehow in the master's program. So one day you could have a computer graphics expert. Another day you have a professor in ethics talking about XR ethics. We have people, experts in data visualization for astronomy. We have people who spend their whole life focusing on eye tracking technology and how it can be applied for VR and AR. We have a whole laboratory in one faculty focusing on so-called motion capture technology. We have mathematical experts. And I mean, this broadness, we really try to use that. And I think that is really something that makes this program unique compared to other similar master's programs, I would say.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Yes, as a comprehensive university, I think we do stand out in that regard, because we have those opportunities for interdisciplinary exchange of ideas, for example, and that kind of thing. So I'm really glad you highlighted that as well. Thank you. Okay, so we reached the end of this session now, and I want to say thank you very much to all of our program staff today who attended, and also to those who have been watching. And I want to just draw your attention to some of the links which are in the chat. We have links to the program pages, which we previously shared here in case you missed them earlier. We also have a link to chat with students from different subject areas, including engineering and technology. We have a link to contact my team in case you have questions which haven't been answered today about the application process, and a link about application steps, same kind of information there, and our applicant weeks. So if you had follow-up questions, whether they are specific to the program, in which case go to the program page, or whether they're more general, in which case feel free to contact my team. We would be really happy to help. We also have, in only 1 hour's time, a webinar with engineering students where you can hear from current students from pharmaceutical technology, wireless communication, production and materials engineering, water resources engineering, food technology and nutrition, sustainable energy engineering, and logistics and supply chain management. So we're going to have a really full student session in just 1 hour's time. So you're really welcome to come and hear what the students have to say as well from their perspective. And as I said, we're all very happy to help you. We really hope that we're going to see some of you next year or beyond. And thank you once again for attending today. We hope to see you soon. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.